interesting, but can we talk about how clunky it looks?
Oh, it's ugly.
It's huge.
The
it's
box?
gigantic,
Yeah.
right? Like the first thing I thought of is where am I going to put that in my entertainment system? Because it's
Well, I think, and it's fair to say,
massive.
it's a big black box. It's not particularly
but it also
beautiful.
looks more like something that's usually found in somebody's entertainment rack
Right, like a cable
than
box.
a video game system.
Uh-huh.
I
Yep.
mean, it
guess.
does look like an old DVD player.
No, and
You
it
know what I mean?
honestly, it was, when I
Something-
first saw it, it definitely is, it's much bigger than, certainly the current Xbox. I think it's the same size as the original Xbox, which was, for years, Microsoft make fun of how big the original Xbox was.
But you've got to do that when you're going to be pushing to get the speeds of a computer. I mean, computers are bigger than that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And if you want to get something that's even remotely future-proof, you know what I mean? And clearly, we're seeing 8 to 10 year life cycle on these things.
Right.
It's going to be big when it first comes out because of all the stuff they have to cram in there, and
Their
it's got to
system
be
on a chip.
cool.
Their system on a chip, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, their motherboard actually does not need to be that ginormous on this device.
Well, what's in there then? I mean, it's got to be something. They didn't just make it big for coolness
Well,
sake.
and part
That's
of
a great
They might have actually
question.
done it for coolness sake.
That's true.
literally
Yeah.
might be the case here.
Right, because
And
they
that
have
is
that
true.
lot of sort of perforated surfaces and the graphics chip, how that's going to run. And the one thing that we don't know is how big the PlayStation 4 is going to be. It's sort of been teased. It'll be interesting to see, like, is that as big as this?
Yeah, do you remember the
Smaller?
original
'Cause
PlayStation
the guts
3?
are pretty
It was
similar.
like this giant,
Yeah.
like,
the fatty,
wing.
yeah.
And given that the guts of both both Xbox and PS4 are pretty similar, it'll be interesting to see sort of what Sony comes out in terms of the size of that
And if
box.
they're
But it
gonna
also
sell
had
you-
all those guts, though, so that you could play PS2 games on your original PS3, which you can't
Right.
do on the Xbox One,
Yep.
and I know a lot of people are upset about that.
Well, let's get into some of the things that they didn't talk about at this press conference, which has created sort of a firestorm of controversy in the hours and days since then. Backwards compatibility is one thing, which I think is important. I think people are right. It's important for sort of the first 6 months with any of these systems. Like PS3 initially, everyone's like, oh my God, it's backwards compatible. They pulled the chip out after about a year. No one really complained about it anymore. I think people are more concerned about, can I play GTA 5 on Xbox One this fall? Who knows?
It's really funny to see how, I mean, it just 100% comes down to the format, right?
Right.
The fact that it's a round disc makes people go, why the hell can this round disc work in this, but not this round disc?
Yep.
And it's like, back when SNES came out, nobody went, hey man, how come my NES cartridges won't go into this thing? It's like, it makes because it doesn't fit in the thing. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
nobody even thought about backwards compatibility
Yeah.
until they went, well, they're all just discs, right? Why doesn't my disc go in?
It's the bits.
It's the bits, right?
bits.
It's the bits.
Yeah,
The
so I think
bits.
backwards compatibility I think is an issue initially. We'll have to see what happens with some of these games coming out in the fall. Will they be made compatible? Let's talk about this idea of always on used games. Lots of controversy around that. People originally thought, if you use the console, it was going to have to connect to the internet every 3 minutes or something like that. That's not the case, but they're saying it's not always online. You can play single-player games if you're not constantly connected to the internet, but it does have to check in with the internet. Sounds like with used games, there's a lot of controversy there on how Microsoft is going to restrict you. Sounds like it's going to be more like Steam, where you're going to have to authenticate a game when you install it. You're not going to be able to just sell it back to GameStop for whatever and then kind of resell the disc. Gamers seem to be up in arms about this concept. Garnet, I mean, do you understand both points of view? What's your take on sort of how this gets solved? Because I see the frustration on the part of gamers, and I also see the publishers who are saying, hey, why are we not making money off these resales of games? And major retailers are making a lot of money off it.
If you're going to sell me a game that is a game experience and tell me that I can only play that game experience myself, and it is, permanently locked to my persona online, it can't be $60.
Right.
And I don't see any future in which any publisher says, oh, well, you know what, now that we have these games locked, let's be different in our pricing model. If anything, look, Call of Duty
charge
Ghost
more.
is going to be $70 probably,
Right. Yeah.
or $80. I mean, every time we have a generation change, there's a push within publishers to raise prices.
Yep.
So here's the thing, if they're going to want both of those things, they're not going to work together. You're not going, it's not taking care of the gamer. And the core gamer really, that's the most important part of this side of the business, right? If you want to sell your device to everyone to watch television, which is where one is trying to pivot, that's great. And maybe there's a casual, larger scale market there that is willing to absorb buying a $60 game or two a year. Yeah. But the gamers who buy, 10, 12 games a year, they're not going to be able to absorb that.
Yeah, game a month, you can start looking at your wallet and go, which game this month, because Jeebus.
Yeah, and it's concerning for families, right? So let's say I am a mom and I have 3 kids,
Right.
and I want to buy Call of Duty for my son, and it's only locked to his gamer tag.
Right.
How much is the fee going to be for the other 2 sons to be able to play that game? As a
According to Phil
parent,
Harrison, it's going to be the same as buying the game.
I mean that's
And that's what I think. I think there
ridiculous.
is. There's a lot of confusion.
speculation
Yeah.
on what
at this
the
point.
story
Nobody
is.
knows.
And I think,
Right.
based on what I've been able to figure out, and I think it's still developing, is this is all, we're talking about software and sort of decisions that can be toggled. So I don't know if they've decided, they may not decide until the summer exactly what it's going to be. There's clearly something going on here. It's not going to be like it used to be. But, is it going to be, like sometimes when you register a piece of software, you can have up to 5, machines. Or like when I have Spotify, I can have, I think it's up to 3 devices, sort of all using the same Spotify
But also,
account.
if
So
it's
you'll be
connected,
able to do that, who knows?
if it's validating, it knows when somebody is playing. I mean, a lot of software has the only on one machine at any given time, but that
Right.
machine can be any machine.
Good point.
That's very common in the
And
software
exactly,
world.
it's all software, so this could change
Yeah.
at any point, and maybe they'll allow multiple, gamer tags if you're on the same network or something like that.
Yeah, or if you
who
bring
knows
the
how it
disc,
works.
the physical disc over to a friend's house and throw it in, we have yet to been told, no, you will not be able to play it over there.
Right.
Probably though, if your sister is playing it at home, you throw it in another computer or another Xbox. Assumably, it can easily say, assumably, that's a new word. It's very easy for it to go, look, talk to the internet and go, somebody's already playing this.
Yep.
It's playing
Well-
it over here. Do you want to play it, or do you want them to keep playing it?
And the
You know what
one
I mean?
thing that is amazing to me is that, right now we're not hearing a lot from sort of the game publishers about what their view is on this. It's sort of the console companies are becoming the bad guys, and Microsoft has been beaten up a lot on it. Sony, I think, is sort of been seen as this kind of white knight so far that's not going to restrict used games. Based on some of the things I'm hearing, I don't think that's
It'll go the same
entirely
way.
true, because I
It'll go the
can't
same
see publishers allowing one system to do one thing or the other. So I think gamers have this bigger question we all face, is sort of like, well, then what do we do if the market's going to move in this direction?
You asked about how the publishers feel about it. I think over the past 3 or 4 years, they've made their position very clear.
Yeah.
That used games, they feel, undermine revenue streams that ought to be theirs rightfully.
Yeah.
And they've also pushed off some of the responsibility for how they handle their studios based on this nebulous number of dollars that are lost to used games. And look, the music business ground its gears against piracy for a long time instead of trying to figure out how to fix their model.
Right.
And they're just now getting around to fixing their model. The video game business has needed to fix its model for years and has just staunchly refused to do that. And it's the same path that the music business went down.
Yeah.
It's
Well, because I see
it's
some
really
gamers saying to me
disappointing.
online, it's like, well, I own, if I buy my game, I own it, and it's like, that's like my music. And like now, for me at least, like I use Spotify, which is subscription, so I don't really buy that much music on iTunes, but it's like I've made the choice that now I'm going to subscribe to this system, and I might lose it one day.
And maybe everyone
but
doesn't
for the
go-
convenience,
Yeah.
I like it of music, so yeah.
And maybe everyone doesn't go free to play, but all you have to do is look at World of Tanks, who are making a AAA caliber game, but making a ton of money off of it, and yet they give the game away to everybody.
All right, so people are outraged, but as you said, we don't know the full story, but clearly I mean,
look,
everyone understands why there's
Yeah,
that
and
frustration.
after the PS4, everybody was outraged that they didn't get to see the physical device. Who gives a crap?
Right.
There's always going
This
to be
is a bigger issue.
There's always going to be something that people are upset about, especially when the answer is they haven't been told yet. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like this could literally be something where the box comes out and goes, "Oh yeah, oh no, yeah, if you have the game, you can sell the game. It doesn't matter to us. You just can't play that game again."
Right.
That's what happens when you sell a game. You know what I mean? Like it could literally be
Well,
not an
We don't
issue.
know, and even the always online situation, a month ago, everyone was like outraged that, the system was gonna, fail out after 3 minutes. That's not the case, but there's something going on here, and it's gonna evolve over the
Well, I'll tell
summer,
you,
so we'll see.
after all the Sims, the SimCity
yeah.
stuff, I think
Sims,
everybody heard
Diablo.
Always On and went, "Oh boy, bad idea." I mean, it's like same thing with Diablo 3 when that first came out. It's like, this is bad. This is bad.
No,
Don't
gamers
need to
wanna-
connect. Don't need to connect.
You want to be able to play games when you want to play.
Come on,
So we'll
everyone,
find out
everyone
what happens.
thought, from the console that brought you the red ring, we bring you
Always on. Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to leave it there when it comes to Microsoft, but you don't have to wait long to hear more about the games and what Xbox is doing. Spike and GT will have live coverage of Microsoft's E3 briefing on Monday, June the 10th. But next week in the bonus round, we'll be back to look at the other 2 major console players, Nintendo and Sony, and what we expect from them at E3 2013.
See all of our shows and game reviews now on the brand new GT app on Xbox Live and the GT Originals iOS app too.